welcome, a very warm welcome to all of you to the Life Indeed podcast, episode 32. Uh, it's been a real amazing journey with all of you guys contributing, giving your feedback, lovely comments, always engaging with us, asking great questions from the guest. It's been super amazing. And we are into 32nd episode, and today I just wanted to let you know that my co-host Piyush is not present today due to certain personal commitment, but we are committed to carry on the momentum and add as much as value as we can. Today's episode is going to be very special because we have a very special guest from Australia. He is a self mastery coach, personal transformation mentor. He has a very interesting story. I would like to keep it as a secret because I would love to listen from him directly. And if you would have any questions with respect to your personal transformation, if you want to become the better version of yourself, or if you want to, ask any questions with respect to how you can find your true identity or how you can become more powerful by finding your identity, then you can definitely ask question from him. So without the further ado, I would like to invite my amazing guest. His name is Ash Blested. So I'm going to invite Ash right away in front of you. Welcome, Ash. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello, Tausif, and hello to your audience. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. And see, people have started joining in. Ravi Jaiswal, good to see you again. Thank you, Ravi. And a lot of the people join us every week. They keep on waiting for the podcast, and the best part is that they throw us a lot of questions, which are very amazing, and we love to interact with them and answer them. Hello, Ronik. Let people join. More and more people join, and ask questions. So, Ash, with your presence, this is going to be a really great session because I'm pretty sure that you're going to talk about certain tips and tricks, which actually help people evolve in their life. And hi, Ronik. We are all good. Thank you so much for asking. So, we always start with this question, like Ash, like, what are you doing at the current moment in your life? Like, could you please tell us about yourself, and then what's going on in your life at the moment?
Thanks for asking, Tausif. And look, I may take up the whole episode telling you about myself because I've been around a long time. For anybody that doesn't know me, as you say, I live down here in southeast Australia, in regional Victoria, beautiful part of the world. Isn't it an amazing thing that we can be talking to each other live from opposite hemispheres? It's an amazing thing. I currently, right now, it's obviously Saturday here in Australia, Saturday afternoon. I am a personal coach, so I have a couple of different businesses that I operate. One
Okay.
is coaching finance professionals, which we do. We have about 80 to 100 clients spread across Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
And that's one thing I do, and the other thing that I do is obviously I'm a personal coach, personal leadership and transformation coach. I work with
Okay.
clients from a lot of different spheres, from financial markets, entrepreneurs, executives, athletes, and ordinary people just looking to improve their life. So that's what I do. I love doing it.
Financial markets, entrepreneurs. Great,
Sorry, I
great,
just
great.
getting a bit of feedback
Yeah,
there, but that's
actually, I
okay.
was just checking if we are available on all the channels or not. So because when two people are there, like me and Piyush, one of them can do it, and the other person can be a little bit more attentive. But today I have to do all the jobs. So
No
thank you
problem.
so much for actually letting me know and all the audience know that what you truly do. And I didn't know about that you have so many clients and you're serving them dedicatedly. So Ash, I was reading about you, and you're the profile tagline that you have, like you know an hour with a wise person is as good as reading 1000 books. It is itself very profound, very deep, because if you understand the meaning of this tagline, it clearly says that if you sit with a person who is positive, who is more knowledgeable than you, who may have gone through a lot of experience, he can give you insights, he can give you certain tips and tricks which can really, really transform your life. And I think you are a living example of that. I'm pretty sure that there must be a reason behind why you wrote that line on your LinkedIn profile. So could you please, explain a little bit about that?
Sure thing, Tausif, and I thank you for making the point. Well, look, my philosophy is that I am a big believer in teaching from your own lived experience. I think
Hmm.
in society, I think there's not enough emphasis placed on older generations that have got a lot of lived experience, a lot of
Hmm.
knowledge,
Hmm.
a lot of awareness, a lot of insights that we can learn from.
Hmm.
It's not to say that you don't have those things when you're younger, but as you get older, you've gone
Hmm.
through a lot in your life. And for me personally, I've been through a lot in my life. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've tried a lot of things. I've stood on a lot of landmines. I guess I've
Hmm.
worked out a lot of things through trial and error. So
Hmm.
I from the perspective of the tagline or my profile line, it's the message is you can go the long way and try and figure
Hmm.
out everything on your own, or
Hmm.
you can take the slightly shorter way and learn from somebody who's already walked that path. So for me, that's
Awesome.
really the essence of learning from somebody who's walked your path, whether it's life in general or a particular skill or just a particular experience.
Hmm.
Who better to learn from than someone who's walked that path? Rather than, I mean, I love reading books. I read a lot of books, but I'm a big believer in learning from real people.
I think it's a very valid point that you have truly raised. I think indirectly you're giving a message to all of the people that if you want to shorten your journey of improvement, no matter what path you have adopted, no matter what craft you want to master, you really look for the people who have done what you want to achieve in that particular domain. And this line that you have actually written, it signifies that you can either learn from yourself, like obviously because there is a plenty of information available all around the world on YouTube, on Google. Information is in abundance. But if you talk about somebody who could package that information, customize it as per your skill set, as per your future identity, I think that's the power of learning from
Mm.
somebody rather than learning on your own, because they can shorten your journey. So, thank you so much, Ash, for explaining this to us.
Oh,
Now, yeah, you
you're
wanted to say
welcome.
something?
No, I was just going to add to your comments there, Tausif, that something you said there is very important, and I'd like to just add to it, and that is there is no shortage of knowledge and information in the world. You can Google anything, you can YouTube anything, you can read anything, you can virtually find out anything you like. But what I have found is amongst all of that knowledge, all that information, that the actual doing, the taking of action, is the
Hmm.
critical part. So a lot of people get stuck with what's the right action to take amongst all this
Hmm.
information, all of this knowledge, all of these options. What is the right action to take and stick with? And what things should I stop doing? And I think that's where having guidance and mentorship from somebody who's lived a fair bit of life can
Hmm.
help you avoid a lot of the mistakes and also help you choose the right options amongst all of the information that's out there,
Hmm.
because so many people get stuck thinking more knowledge and more information is going to solve the problem, when the reality is transformation only comes from taking action.
Absolutely. And I'm so when you said that I'm a teacher, I could resonate with you, Ash, because spiritually I think I'm also a teacher. Ever since my childhood, I would always help other people to, in bits and pieces, whatever information that they would require. These days I make a lot of videos on Instagram, keep on doing a lot of post content on personal development, because I believe that whatever knowledge and experience that you have, if you don't hold it to yourself and share it with the world, I think it can transform a lot of people's life, and it has a ripple effect. Secondly, what we discussed about, there is a plenty of knowledge available on information, as you rightly said that so I was listening to one of my mentor who was saying that knowledge is doing what to do, knowledge is knowing what to do, but wisdom is knowing what not to do. So if you if you're reading a lot of books, good enough, you should do it, congratulations. If you're listening to a podcast, if you're learning from a lot of self-help materials, absolutely fine, you keep on doing it, because it will tell you what to do, but your mentor can tell you what not to do, because he has gone through those journey, experimented a lot, failed multiple times, so he can save that time for yourself. I think that is the importance of mentor. And I think, I would not be surprised if you would have a lot of clients who would be saving a lot of time through you, and be on the path of self development.
Well, I hope so, Tausif. And I think something you said there also I'd like to reflect on, and that is that I think all of us have got experience that we should share, whether you're young or old or anywhere in between, at different points of life. There's always someone else in the world who wants to know and learn from what you've experienced. So anybody listening out there that's wondering about how they can make themselves a coach or how they can move forward, is there's always somebody out there looking to learn, who needs help, and there's also always someone
Absolutely.
out there who's been through what you've
What
been
you have been
through,
through.
and they've made the mistakes. Like, why don't make all the mistakes yourself? Like, we all want to figure everything else ourselves, right? That's human
Absolutely.
nature. We want to solve the problem. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to ask for help. So that's okay sometimes. But the truth is, that opening yourself up to help by being vulnerable is sometimes the most important thing you can do.
Correct.
And then, of course, it's finding the right mentor who has lived through what you want to go through, whether it's business,
Hmm.
growth, professional development, some form of transformation. I teach traders as well, so
Oh,
I'm a technical analyst. So I trade the futures market. I have for 25 years. So I teach traders how to rebuild their mind suitable for trading, and that's not about knowledge. That's about disciplined effort and practice
absolutely.
over time.
I think you have raised a very, very good point here. Like, because knowledge is easily available these days. There was a time when, people used to go to college, universities, they used to be highly dependent on, education institutions to acquire knowledge. But these days, because of the internet revolution, the knowledge is everywhere. You are actually not bounded to learn from one particular person or institution. It is available, readily available. But now what it really requires is the focus and discipline. How you can keep your focus on one thing that you really, really want, and consistently work on that. So I think that will differentiate you from others. It's really a valid point. I would like to quickly shout out for the people who have joined. Ronik is saying, you're doing an inspirational job, super surf. Stay safe and stay happy. Thank you so much, Ronik, for joining in. Stay here and ask questions. Gabriel is saying hi, team. Gabriel Fogade joining from Nigeria. Welcome, Gabriel. Great job, Tasif. Jani Sarkar, thank you so much. Muaz, Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam. Kindly accept my invitation. Absolutely, I will do. Thank you so much for all the beautiful people who have joined today. And at the end of the day, and at the end of the session, we would love to take your question. So, Ash, I would like to move on to our next question. So, we always, ask our guest, like, if I take you back to your childhood, when you were a kid or young, you know, did you ever realize at that time, did you have any kind of intuition that, you will become, personal mastery coach, you will identify your true identity, and then the same thing you will do for other, you will help them, find their true self. So are you able to connect the dot? Any incident from your childhood that you could share, or any perspective or experience that you have?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Tausif, and I think reflecting back on life gives you the opportunity to do that. Of course, I think at the time, probably not. Like a lot of people, I think I was an introvert growing up. I always felt a little bit different, as introverts do. You feel like you don't
Hmm.
fit in. But I had a happy childhood. But looking back now through my childhood and into my early working life, I always had a passion for helping people. I guess I always got enjoyment from seeing other people succeed. I enjoyed succeeding myself, but I found the greatest success was in helping other people, whether it was my clients
I'm with you on this.
or it was the team of people that I worked with or employees. Because I started my own business when I was 31, and I've had 7 or 8 businesses since then. Um, so I always fell in a path that put me in contact with helping people. So looking back, yes, I can join the dots. And I also had a love of numbers, right? So I loved numbers. So I sort of fell into helping people with numbers, which is finance, right?
Hmm.
So that's why here we are 25, 30 years later or more. I'm still doing both those things. I help people with numbers and I help people pursue their best version of themselves. So I guess you could say I've joined the dots, Tausif, from my childhood. Whether there was one particular incident, I don't recall one particular thing, but I certainly know the feeling of enjoyment and fulfillment that came from seeing other people grow and achieve what they want. Always made me happy.
I think it's a brilliant point that you have raised here, and I truly resonate with this. Though I have not documented it, but I remember when I became a new supervisor. That was my first people management role. Uh, One of the challenge was to you have to actually you don't have to perform on yourself, but you have to get the performance from other people. And that's one of the biggest challenge when you become a people manager, when you become a leader, because you're not only responsible and accountable for what you do, but you're responsible for the group of people you're leading.
Yeah.
So I started to realize over a period of time that if I would help somebody and they would find that results have changed positively, it would give me a lot of pleasure. It doesn't really matter. It would vary from like helping people to crack interview, helping people to improve their performance, helping people to understand them better. It would give me a lot of immense pleasure. And I think it's something that you develop over a period of time, and you can only enjoy the true essence of that feeling when you actually help somebody and that person has changed positively. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
with you absolutely, because I could resonate with your point. So Ash, I would like to move on to next question. So as you rightly mentioned that you had a fair bit of experiences, a lot of memories from childhood. There is not one particularly, but you know you have been an introvert, and somewhere down the line I have also been an introvert. I would remember that if some guest would come at my home, I would hide myself. I would make sure that I would not go in front of them, fearing from somebody may ask something and I may not be able to answer, or what would I say. A lot of these cracky thoughts. But and but what I realized, that not speaking and expressing myself led to a situation where I started to conform to different situation. Conformism and conformity is one of the killer kind of a thing, where you try to fit into everything, every situation, trying to please everyone, because you kind of don't have your own identity. And it
Yes.
is one of the very big challenges in, I think, all of the societies across the world. When you don't have your own identity, when you don't know yourself, you try to fit into others' shoes. You try to please other, try to just agree with whatever other people are saying. And you were like that as well, as you said. So I
Mm.
would like to know from you, how did you transform from that thought of having introversion and trying to fit into somebody who understood self, mastered self, and now even helping other people to self mastery. So how did you do that? I mean, I
There's
would
a
like to understand. And in fact,
that's a
audience would also like to understand.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's a big question, right? And I think we could probably talk about that for hours and hours and hours and hours, right? That's a very big question. But I'll just take you back a little bit. I mean, one of the other things that drives me, and I'm fascinated with, and always have been, with what makes people tick. Why do people do the things they do? Why do people act the way they act? So, what drives human nature? What are the motivations of people that lie beneath the surface that make them do the things that they do? It's always fascinated me, always has, and to this day. So, I think that's part of my drive
Hmm.
is to know what makes people tick. So you put that together with being an introvert, um, also wanting to be in charge of my own destiny. So I was probably not a great employee because I always, even though I worked in corporate finance for nearly
Hmm.
15 years, I always I always felt frustrated I always felt like I wasn't able to express myself. And a lot of that, I think, Tausif, was because exactly what you said. I didn't really understand my own identity. And
Hmm.
so you end up projecting yourself into other environments to try and fit in. And you
Hmm.
never do, right? Because that never works. And there's millions, hundreds of millions of people around the world who this will resonate with is they spend, a lot of their life, sometimes their entire life, asleep at the wheel, trying to fit in to other people's expectations, when really the answer is to turn around and go inward to understand yourself. What's the famous proverb? Know thyself. You must
Know
know thyself.
thyself. Yeah.
Now, that's a little bit of a throwaway line, but within that lies the answer. Within that lies the answer of going inside to understand, who am I? What motivates me? Um, you know, what do I want to get out of life? What are the things that I enjoy doing at a deep level? And once you go through that process, you start to see the world differently, and you start to
Hmm.
attract different people and different things into your life. And I think the process of doing that, Tausif, and I'm sure your listeners would resonate with this, is unfortunately most people won't do that unless they have no other choice. It's a little bit like people don't look at themselves unless there's a major catastrophe or a major life challenge, right?
Challenge.
Now, it could be a relationship breakdown, it could be the death of
Hmm.
a loved one, it could be a major health issue, it could be a financial collapse, or
Hmm.
it could be what the whole world's going through now, which is the COVID 19
Pandemic.
pandemic, which is forcing people against their will, in many cases, to look at themselves, look inside themselves, because most people run around
Correct.
distracted, busy, keeping themselves occupied, which is an avoidance behaviour to look within. So I think the best bit of advice that I could ever give any of your listeners, and it was certainly my journey, is don't wait for life to whack you over the head, right? Like your podcast is called Life Indeed. So don't follow the path of waiting for something to happen to force you to do this. Take the steps, find somebody that you can talk to that has got some skills to help you go on that inward journey, right? To start to understand why you are, why your brain, and I love the science of this, Tausif. Like I've studied the science a lot. Like I'm spiritual, but I'm also scientific. So a bit of a combination, part spiritual, part scientific, because the science,
I see those thoughts in your post.
yeah,
Quite
yeah,
a
the
bit of
science.
technical representation of what you do in terms of understanding science of how human mind works. A lot of
Oh,
simulations.
the secrets to everything are in understanding how our mind works. That's where everything starts from. And the science proves that. And the science is catching up to the mysticism. Like, there's certain civilizations worked this out 4,000 years ago, right? And here we are 4,000 years later, and maybe society is finally figuring out that those old ancients knew a thing or two, right? As to go within, understand yourself, and then life takes on a whole new arc, a whole new direction. But I think in the modern world, Tausif, a lot of people have lost sight of that. They've lost the ability to look inwardly and
Hmm.
to understand themselves, and they tend to live an external life of distractions, social media, keeping busy, and one week turns into a month, turns into a year, turns into a decade, turns into a lifetime. It's amazing and frightening, if I'm being honest, how many people are asleep at the wheel of their own life, right? And that's what drives me as a coach, is to change as many of those lives positively as I possibly can.
I think it's really inspirational because what you actually have shared right from the beginning of the answer to this question is like, as a human being, I think we need reasons for doing anything in life. Unless there is a reason, we would not do anything. Because I personally also believe that there is always an underlying cause behind every action that we take. But the problem is that in order to improve ourselves, we also look for reasons. and we should not be finding for that reason to why we should go ahead and do it. The reason should be your purpose. So it will only come if you try to identify yourself and understand who you really are. And I think, as you mentioned about certain life, challenges, when you hit the rock bottom in your life, maybe the death of your loved one, or maybe any really a huge adversity in your life, only then you actually find that, oh, I have to do something. And I think pandemic has played a very very big role in actually making people realize that, you know there is a lot of distraction in the world at the moment in terms of social media, a lot of other things. But when you actually sit silently with yourself and think through what is going on inside of you, understand that science, and try to answer all of the questions that are going on inside of you, that's how you try to explore yourself by and by. And that's what you shared. And I think, we should not be waiting for something to do something. you know that is a thin line. If we try to, start being proactive and start
Mhm.
developing ourselves without even waiting for the reason, okay, this will happen, then I will do this, then I think the real change can happen. And we become very complacent over a period of time, and I am also not deprived of it. At times I become lazy, complacent, I procrastinate, because we all are human being. But the ability to bounce back and bounce forth is what differentiate you from others.
Yes.
And I think what you explained is, it truly resonates. A lot of people are, commenting, and Gokul is saying, I agree. The concept of group performance explore when we are in leadership. A lot of people have joined us on Facebook as well. And Gokul is saying agree. Thank you, Gokul. And please, guys, all of you, please post your questions if you have anything that you want to ask from Ash, because he is a self mastery coach. If you are struggling in your life, any behavior that you want to improve, you know, eh, you want to become more consistent in your thoughts, in your action, please post your question. We would love to take it at any time whenever we have a little bit of, leave time. So, Ash, thank you so much for answering that. So, you actually have answered that why people don't take action to, develop themselves, because they need a reason. It may be a tougher reason in life, and then what they can do to basically transform themselves. I would like to move on to another question, Ash. So, as you said that you coach people on personal mastery. So especially in India, a lot of people. If I talk about the ancient India, there are a lot of evidences where, you know 100 year of life would be divided into four quadrant. The first quadrant would be like, you have to just stay at home, nurture your relationship, try to identify yourself. And the second quadrant would be for study, yourself, and about the world, and have some skill. Then the third quadrant would be for business, and then last quadrant would be for like serving, and then leaving the world. Ancient India, and I think all the civilization all across the world, teaches you to be more powerful within yourself. But over a period of time, as human has evolved, technology has evolved, industries has evolved, it actually kept us busy and distracted from knowing who you truly are. And
Yes.
that's a fact. And we are it's a classic example of what we see in today's world. So because of the fact that you actually help people to transform and have the self mastery, so would you be able to give us a little bit of glimpse how you actually started on this journey? What was going on your mind?
Hmm.
And what was who was pre personal transformation, the Ash, and the post personal transformation? Like, what was that overall journey, and what kicked in within you that you started this journey on?
Well, interesting question. A very interesting, Tausif, and there's a lot of things in there. Look, I think for me that before I really understood mindfulness and understood personal growth truly, I felt that personal growth was a result of being successful at something else. So I like a lot of people, I held this belief: if I'm successful in business, that makes me a worthy person. If I'm successful in sport, that means I'm valuable, I'm warranted, I'm useful. So I like a lot of people, my validation in life came from external things,
Hmm.
being fitting in, being successful in whatever I was doing. And it was only really probably about 15 years ago when a couple of major things happened. I had a major financial collapse due to something outside my control,
Okay.
which I can tell you about that story if you like. And I also had at the same time my mother. I was diagnosed with terminal
Oh.
cancer at the same time. So these two things would really turned my world upside down. And it
Hmm.
really tipped me into this journey of self discovery to rebuild myself. So I basically hit rock bottom financially,
Hmm.
emotionally, and I slowly rebuilt myself. I guess because I was a sort of person who looked
And
inwardly.
how, when did it happen? Ash? Like how
This
much
is
time?
this was not long after the GFC. So the late 2009, 2008,
Hmm.
2010, about then.
Hmm.
Um, and it really got me on this journey. And this journey ultimately led me to the understanding that you can't change yourself by changing things on the outside. You can
Hmm.
only change yourself by changing
Inside.
inwardly, right?
Absolutely.
And I never understood how to do that. It was like a mystery. It was a mystery. I hear people talking about all these things: meditation, mindfulness, all the mystics and the gurus over the decades talking about these amazing things, all the martial arts. Like I've always studied martial arts as well. And I never could quite get my head around what do they actually mean? What do they actually mean? And it dawned on me through a very major, difficult period in my life that, oh, hello, I and my thoughts are not the same thing. The I
Hmm.
that I identify as is just a current version of my potential. I have the
Hmm.
ability to go inside and reshape who I am as a person from the inside out. I'm
Hmm.
still the same core person, but I can
Hmm.
actually change the way I see the world. I can change the stories I tell myself. I can change the way my brain responds to pressure and stress and anxiety. And I
Hmm.
started to work on myself. I started to work on myself. And I found that it started to make these amazing changes in the relationships around me. Um,
Hmm.
and through that process, I came to the realization that this is something that's life changing. This has just changed my life. And
Hmm.
that's when I guess the compulsion or the trigger to I've got to share this with the world. I want to talk about this. I want to help other people because now I've through my own journey of difficulty and learning and ups and downs, I've actually figured a few things out. I mean, none of us figure it all out, Tausif, because I mean, you might have heard me say this, but self mastery is a state of being. It's not a goal. Like there's
Hmm.
no end goal when hello, I've
It's a
reached
journey.
total enlightenment. Like unless you're the Dalai Lama, right, you haven't reached total enlightenment, right? So self mastery is a state of being. So for me, I'm always learning, and I'm always looking to learn. But I now understand how to help people flip that upside down and actually separate their thoughts from who they are. And within that process, then we start to develop the tools to make the changes.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And even the audience, like Gokul is saying, agree with the speaker. Excellent explanation. Thank you, Gokul, for the feedback. Do ask if you have any questions. Absolutely. What Ash you have shared, you know, personal transformation, success. This is not a goal. This is just a journey. I mean, I you know, a lot of time what happens that I was reading a book, Think Like Monk, which is a very famous book by Jay Shetty. In that book he wrote that most of the time we associate our feelings and thoughts with ourselves. Like there is one thing saying that I am angry, and there is another saying that I feel angry. So when you are angry, actually you are not angry, it is one of your feeling. But how you can separate your feeling from yourself is by saying, by detaching your emotions with yourself. Like when you say I am angry, it means that you are actually angry. But when you say I feel angry, it is one of the feeling that you are having, and the feeling can always be changed by a transformation, by a thought, by a certain awareness. So I think you have made a very valid point that making people, you make people realize from who they are, and what their thoughts are, what is their identity. So I think
Yes.
that is a journey. And as you quoted Dalai Lama, you can never achieve complete perfect personal transformation. You will always keep evolving, because there is a lot of there's a lot of things which are going on in the universe which you have still not connected to through
Mhm.
your intuition, and you will keep on doing that till the last day of your life. You would like to say something on Ash?
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, there's a lot of stuff that occurs to me. I mean, one thing I would like to say, and I hope this makes sense for you and for your listeners, and that is that a lot of people think we are rational people. We've got this neocortex, our rational brain, that
Rational brain.
we think that controls our life and makes all the decisions, and then emotions fit in somewhere. But the truth is, we are emotional beings who rationalize things. It's not the other way around, right? So it's
Correct.
very important that people understand you are not a rational being who has emotions. You are an emotional being who rationalizes them, because
Hmm.
6 million years of evolution have granted us all this brain that's got the limbic system, has fight flight structure built in
Freeze. Hmm.
to ensure our survival. And we developed a thinking brain over the top that works some of the time, but under stress, under pressure, under the uncertainty of life, what happens is our caveman brain kicks in and takes over, right? So, and then all of our thinking becomes emotional state dependent. So your
Correct.
thinking is dependent on your emotional state, not the other way
Wow.
around.
Absolutely. And yeah. So I absolutely understand this concept of being emotional and rational. At times, I remember I was going through a personal transformation master class. One of a lady who is very profound in my current organization, and she gave an example of rational and emotional brain. That at times what happened, that when you receive an email which is kind of challenges you, which does not have the good words for you, or may have criticized what you have done, then what really happens, that your emotional brain comes into the picture, and your rational brain goes behind.
Do
So
you know
what
how
you
quick
really
that
tend to
is?
do?
Do you know how
Yeah.
quick that is, Tausif? Do you know how
No,
quick
I would like you
that
to add on to that.
it's, your emotional brain, that traffic cop triggers your emotional reaction in 0.06 of a second.
Wow.
0.06 of a second. Now, your rational brain, your neocortex kicks in at about 0.25 of a second. So by the time your rational thinking has got a chance to respond to that trigger event, it's too late. Your emotions have already hijacked your rational thinking.
Wow.
Right. So
So
this is
I would like to repeat it. So your emotional brain comes in the time of 0.06 second,
yes,
and your rational brain comes in the time of 0.25 right?
that's right. That's right. So when there's no
Wow. I mean,
stress, when there's no pressure, information goes straight to our thinking brain. So we get a chance
hmm,
to process it and think about it and make what we believe to be a rational decision. But the problem is, whenever there's stress, pressure, anxiety, uncertainty, which is a lot of life, guess what happens? That old evolutionary biological brain takes over and reroutes the information straight past your rational brain, straight to your amygdala, your hippocampus, and it's too late. Your rational brain kicks in, but already the chemistry of emotions are in your body. And emotions are chemical, right? They're not,
hmm,
your emotions are a chemical reaction to
absolutely.
uncertainty, right?
Yeah, that's very very important. And I would like to continue to what I was saying. So, that lady that had advised to a group of people, including myself, that whenever such situation occurs, and I think it is not only applicable to the email that you receive, it is applicable in all walks of life. Like somebody threaten you, challenges you, or somebody sent you a very ugly email. So what you can do, she advised that you can give time to yourself. Like you might have a cup of coffee or tea, or have a glass of water. Give some time to yourself. And I think that the analogy that you have explained of 2.25 second is actually to beat that thought. And when you give time to yourself, then you think through it, your emotional brain goes back and your rational brain comes into the picture. and that's how you make actually a better decision. So
Correct.
I think that it's a very valid point.
I would love to give a little tip. If anybody wants to take a
Please.
little actionable tip, one of the things that I teach, I call it, you write it down if you like, it's called situational gratitude. Like a lot of, like gratitude is a word that gets used a lot, right? Be grateful, have a
Correct.
gratitude journal, which is all good. But I say, why not be grateful throughout the day? So one of the best ways to train yourself to avoid that triggering of your emotions is to train yourself to be grateful for every little event in life. So an example would be when you get that email. Situational gratitude would teach you to, instead of reacting with anger or fear or flight, react with, oh, curiosity. Oh, what can I learn from this email? How can I respond to this differently? Like if you can train yourself with situational gratitude to divert that information away from your emotional core and back to your rational core, that is, a terrific base level skill that everybody can learn. I call it situational gratitude.
Wow. It's an amazing tool that you have given to everyone. It's all about finding positives and the good things in every situation that you go through all day long. But it require a real conscious efforts. But you have to remind your brain that, okay, if something has happened, whatever has happened, let's try to find out, let's be curious and try to understand why it has happened. What good can I find into this, rather than looking for all the, because what really happens that since our childhood we have been conditioned to look at the negative aspect of everything.
Yes.
We always, we are very best to find the faults into everything, whatever happens, has happened, actually around us. But if we try to shift that momentum towards finding positive and good things, into everything, whatever has happened or happens around us, I think it can really change and transform the way we think, and it can really change the result, because gratitude lies into everything. Even if something bad happens to you, it has happened because of a certain reason. Maybe we don't get that perspective in the present,
Mm.
but we realize that perspective in the future. Oh, that has happened, but it is because of that incident I am where I am today. So
It's
it's really nice.
It's a really good point, and I also think it's worth adding something further, Tausif. What you
Please.
said is, I agree completely with how we grow up, and we're taught right from the moment we enter the world with our unfinished brain. Our unfinished brain starts to resolve its beliefs based on the environment we grow up in. So by the time you're 7 or 8, your brain's already figured out how to stay safe, how to
Hmm.
survive. Now, what also we all have, Tausif, is biology and evolution has gifted us a brain that seeks out threats. It seeks out threats in the environment to
Hmm.
measure them and neutralize them. That's how we survived as a species, right? We
Hmm.
survived as a species by being aware of threats. We didn't survive as a species by being aware of opportunities or good things.
Hmm.
So this is a really deep piece of understanding. Is we've got evolutionary biology that we've already got. We've all got it. You can't hide from it. Everybody is born with that biology. It's on our genome. And then through life, it gets added to. So by the time you become a rational adult at about the age of 25, you are fully invested in a belief system that is very limiting, because you've designed it to respond to threat by running away or by attacking it, right?
Hmm.
That's what we've all learned. So, in order to progress in life and to master ourselves, we've got to understand that. That's what I'm trying to get that point of. We've got to understand that, and then develop the tools to change the way we respond to fear and threats.
Very, very, really, really awesome. I mean, you have truly explained the reason behind why we look for threats in the environment than we look for opportunities. So, but I think the crux of the entire discussion, if we could transform us from looking for the threats in the environment to looking for the opportunities in the environment, I think that's how you can become more and more successful.
Oh,
Truly
definitely,
appreciate.
definitely, and that's
So
where situational
yeah,
gratitude
so
plays
Ash,
that role. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to ask you, something regarding what you truly do in terms of like present scenario. How do you basically, what is a step by step approach you, if somebody would like to connect to you from our network to actually understand themselves, to master themselves, what is it that you do? Like, what is the time frame? What are those steps that you actually do to actually, help them realize their, personal transformation journey and make them more aware about themselves? So could you please share something about that?
Yeah, sure thing. So it always starts with a discussion, of course. So anybody that reaches out to me, I always get on a Zoom call and we have a chat, and I will ask some questions and go through to discover what's really going on, to see what's going on. Now, that's that discovery process. When I actually start working with people, it's generally in three phases. And generally, I don't work with anybody for less than 3 months because it takes time to make changes. This is the
Hmm.
problem with knowledge
Hmm.
acquisition is you're not making any changes. All you're doing is shoving more knowledge in, right?
Hmm.
Your brain doesn't care about more knowledge, right? It doesn't care. That's so. Anyway, to get back to your question, so the first stage is emotional regulation. Right? Number
Hmm.
one is emotional regulation. You cannot open the door to your mind if you can't regulate your emotions. So I
Hmm.
teach people how to regulate their emotions through breathing and through muscle tension that allows them to divert and intervene with that emotional reaction. Once we've got that underway, then we go into mindfulness. Then we go into the construction of your current identity and why you are reacting and going down a certain path, whether it's all of the limiting beliefs, worthiness, self-esteem, self-sabotage, a need to matter, a need to win. There's all of these underlying self-beliefs that we can't get to until we can get
Yeah.
into the mind. And then
Hmm.
once we're in there, then we start to talk about that observer of yourself. So this is a concept that you might be aware of, Tausif. A lot of people are, but a lot of people aren't. And that is the ability to observe your own thoughts. So the ability to step
Hmm.
away, which is essentially mindfulness. Mindfulness is a step essentially accepting that you and your thoughts are not the same. So many people
Absolutely.
believe that their identity and their thoughts are a single phenomena, right? Which they're not. So listeners, it is absolutely false to believe that the thoughts you're having on your identity are the same thing. The true you, your true nature, is not your thoughts. So once we go into that place, then we start to go a bit deeper into discovering new emotional programs that can
Wow.
be brought forth to engage with the world in a better way.
Great, great. And I think I would recommend, the people who wants to connect with Ash and, enroll into his program, because I think, what you have shared is like an holistic approach from, it's somebody who is completely unaware about himself or herself, can start from the scratch, and within 3 months, I think, you will make them, really self-aware and powerful, because obviously, confidence comes from clarity. The more you are clear about yourself, the more confident you become. And I don't shy away in saying that I have personally realized this. The more and more self-aware I became, my confidence has increased, and as a result, my communication has also improved. Most of the time, communication does not have anything to do with the language. I have also realized this. It comes with clarity and conviction. The more
Yes.
you know about your strengths and weaknesses, you play around that. It just act like a navigator. And I think you have really mentioned that point. So, Ash, one of the burning problem that we have these days, I would like to ask this question on behalf of all the corporate professionals, the individuals who are very busy in their life, they're doing 9 to 5 jobs, or the entrepreneurs who are completely immersed into their business. I would like to ask this question on their behalf, like, how can they, being very busy 24 by 7, how can they actually practice mindfulness? How do they can connect with themselves? Any tips that you would like to share?
Yeah, that's a good one. And look, mindfulness is a thing that you can grow and improve at over time. I would certainly the simplest place to start is I don't. I wouldn't advise anybody to go for the whole sitting in the lotus position, and you have to be on a
Hmm.
meditation mat, and you have to have incense burning and music. Like, that's not necessary. Meditation can be done anywhere, anytime. So mindfulness starts with being able to sit quietly in the absence of thought. Right?
Hmm.
So most people cannot stop thoughts coming into their mind when they start this. So the way to practice is just to start with 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, and see how long you can go without thinking. Right? That's a real challenge. So everybody, corporates, busy people, because
It
people are
is.
so busy and they're so used to being distracted and they're so used to doing things that the whole notion of sitting still and not thinking is foreign, and it's very difficult. This is why mindfulness, it's not easy, right? Because it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes some skill to empty your mind of thought.
Hmm.
Right? Once you empty your mind of thought and get some skill at that, then guess what you can do then? Then you can start to examine yourself. Then you can
Hmm.
start to examine where those thoughts are coming from, what beliefs are generating those thoughts. Then you can start to work on changing them. Right? But you've got
Hmm.
to start back here with just getting used to.
So, Ash, you mean to say that you don't require any professional setup or like your yoga mat, or then you can do it. You do the meditation anywhere. You can think through, and at any point of time in a day, right?
Yep. You could be sitting in the car. It can be going for a walk. You do need to be free of distractions if possible. And if thoughts come into your mind, which they will, just stop yourself and push them out. Stop yourself, push them out. And if negative thoughts come in, just replace them with a positive thought. If they come back, replace them with a positive thought. If they come back, replace them with a positive thought. Just practice it over and over. I often teach people to do the 10-day challenge. I think it's an
Okay.
old Tony Robbins thing. Tony Robbins, who teaches this sort of thing, is, discipline yourself to do this for 10 days and your mind will start to change.
So, what is
So,
that 10-day challenge? Like, what do you ask your people to do?
well, you've got to, there's four rules, right? So you must not hold a negative thought for more than a couple of seconds, right? So this is really hard because, as you said, most
It's very
people,
hard.
very hard. So as soon as a negative thought comes to your mind, you have to push it away and replace it with an uplifting, positive thought. So, for example, you could be sitting going, "Oh, my partner said something mean to me." Negative thought. Instead of holding that thought, you replace it with, "Well, what can I learn about myself? How can I use this opportunity to grow my relationship?" Right. So this is training yourself and training your mind away from catastrophizing life, away from focusing on the negative. And that is designed to allow you to empty your mind and start to work within. I call it the committee of the mind, right? Inside our mind, we've got all these emotional programs duking it
Hmm.
out for control. And once you can get in there, you can start to replace, what's not working with what is working, which is,
Hmm.
self-soothing, courage, wisdom, warrior. All of those, they're the archetypes that need to be brought to the surface. And I'll say this one final thing for everybody, for everybody listening, is you do not need a belief system from the outside. Inside every single one of you, all of these things already exist, right? So
Wow.
everything exists already. The job is to go inside and discover them and bring them to the surface, and then train yourself with practice, 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 practice. That under pressure you react differently. I call it auto response. If my
What is
method is
that?
auto
What's
response training.
order response?
Yeah, so it's like teaching your brain to respond differently to
Hmm.
stress and pressure and emotional challenges. And that is really the secret in changing your life right there. So you've
Wow.
got to train your mind. It's like any other muscle. It's not going to change by just wanting it to change. You've actually got to do the practice.
And I think in order to fill the glass with pure water, you have to empty the glass with the impure water. And I think same is the case with mind. I mean, in order to learn something you knew, you got to unlearn something. And the way to unlearn something is to tell yourself, okay, I have certain limiting beliefs, I have to crush them,
Yes.
I have to kill those negative beliefs. And then that's where the the positive transformation sprouts. And I think you have shared a very valid point. And I think for all the busy working professionals who actually struggle to find time for themselves, it's a good news for all of you. You don't need any special setup or time, maybe the morning time, or the you can do the meditation anytime. You can sit silently with yourself anytime. Stop the negative thoughts coming into yourself, transform those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, and keep on doing it until you realize that yes, there is a bit of transformation happening. And I think the pragmatic approach is that other people around you will start to notice that the behavior in yourself. Maybe you don't realize it at times, but other people would come and say, okay, Tosif, I can see transformation in you. The way you used to behave is no more. It's different from what you used to be earlier than you are right now. So I think it's very, very, I mean, you have added a lot of value, Ash, today. I think the tips and tricks that you have shared through this podcast are really, really amazing. I would love that my audience, whosoever would love to catch up in the future with you, connect with you, please do
Yes.
that and revisit this episode, because it will be there on the YouTube channel. You can get benefited from the discussion that we had today. Now we have a couple of minutes. Arun Shukla saying, Ash, the point is very valid. Thank you so much, Arun, for joining. Yes, understanding unlearning point is equally important, Tausif. Thank you, Arun. I would like to request all of the audience who's watching to us right now, please post your questions, because we just have 2-3 minutes left, and I would like to respect Ash's time. Obviously, he would have different commitments as well. But I really, really want to appreciate, Ash, what you have actually discussed today. You have taken 1 hour of your precious time out of your schedule and come to this podcast, shared about your insights, your life journey from the childhood, the value add that you added to yourself, and now you're doing it for others, tips and tricks. It's really, really phenomenal. Thank you so much. Arun is saying, Ash, do you agree that having a forgiving mindset helps? It's a question for you.
Thank you, Arun. That's a good question. Absolutely. And it starts with forgiving yourself. Like, a lot of these things are not our fault. Like, these are the beliefs that we inherited through biology and through our environment that we grow up in. So it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility to work on them. So it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility. So forgiving mindset is a version of situational gratitude. It's one thing. It's one thing just to say I forgive people, but I like the situational gratitude, Arun, as a extension of a forgiving mindset, so that when you forgive somebody, you actually replace the thought with a positive thought, i.e., what can I achieve from this? How can I use this situation to better that person or myself or both, and also learn from? So I guess it's a version of a growth mindset. So vulnerability and a forgiving mindset are a part of it. Absolutely. And look, I don't know that it reduces anger. I think anger is a natural emotion. But what it does, it gives you the skills to
Hmm.
short circuit anger. That's the key. So, anger and these other feelings will happen. But if you've got these skills and you train yourself or you get help training them, you will have a tool to short circuit that anger very quickly. Okay?
It's really great. I think it's a wonderful question from Dr. Arun Shukla, and you have answered it really quickly. And I would like to reiterate and understand, Ash, situational gratitude is about looking for opportunities and positiveness in every situation which has happened throughout the day. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's right. Yes,
Because this is a new jargon for me, to be honest, and I wanted to understand. That is the reason I'm reiterating, and I
yes,
think it would be good for the audience as well.
absolutely. And it's the best place to start with your transformation is practicing situational gratitude, because this happens 100, 200, 300 times a day, where little things happen, whether it's traffic or your family or your work, or some politician in government says something that upsets you, or something happens that you have been reacting to with some form of fear or fight, flight, or anger or lust or some form of emotion. Situational gratitude is a fantastic way to train your mind to respond differently, right? And that opens the door to work on your limiting beliefs. So the limiting beliefs come second, but what comes first? Situational gratitude. So I teach this
Absolutely.
to everybody, Tausif, because it's like the base camp. It's like the boot camp, I should say, that's required. That plus some breathing techniques, some diaphragmatic breathing. That and situational gratitude are the two things that anybody that wants to improve their life should start with.
Amazing. I would like to take last question. Gokul is asking negative to positive transformation. How you can do that?
I think it's the same question essentially. So when you say negative,
Yeah.
I assume that you're meaning, Gokul, that you might have a self-sabotaging limiting belief, or you might have a self-esteem limiting belief, or you might have a pessimistic belief for whatever reason. How to boost self-confidence and how to go to positive transformation. Look, this is one of the things I want to say here is um, there's a lot of literature and a lot of people out there who talk about affirmations, um, you know, uh, the law of attraction, the law of vibration. I'm a big believer in cause and effect, by the way, Tausif. It's the most fundamental law of the universe, cause and effect, or the law of vibration. But those things, positive thinking is okay, but it doesn't change anything. Affirmations are okay, they don't change anything. Just sitting on a chair, repeating something to yourself won't change anything. Situational gratitude, practicing it under pressure, right? That's the key thing, Gokul, under pressure, which is why situational gratitude works, because you're only doing it when there's some external pressure from your environment, right? That your environment has changed, something's happened, and that's how emotions work. Emotions coordinate the environment with the individual, right? So your external environment, that relationship with you as an organism is managed through emotions. So every time there's a change in your environment, your emotions are triggered. So that's why situational gratitude practiced in that environment actually works to change the way that you respond to that external environment. So it's the same answer. I would definitely start there, because you can't get into your mind and do the deep work until you've opened up your mind through this sort of boot camp work, if you like.
Sorry, guys, I was speaking on mute. So I would like to add to what Gokul has asked, like how you can boost your self confidence. You know, I have suffered for not being self confident. I have really, really suffered this. The reason why we are not self confident is because we are not clear about our identity. I remember when I was not knowing my strength, my weaknesses, my purpose, my vision and vision, my mission and my vision. I didn't know what I truly loved to do. So what I used to do, I used to fit in, because I didn't have any opinion. So what I would do, I would always agree to others' opinion. But when I did that in the past, I would go into the meetings, I would agree with what others would say, but deep down into my heart, I would always want to say something, but I would not say that, because I would
Mm-hmm.
feel that this might be wrong, others may judge it, right? It was because I was not confident at that time. But as and when I started to work on my personal transformation, I understood what my mission and vision is, what I truly want out of my life, who I really am, what's my strength and weakness. Then I play around that. My self confidence has already started to boost. And you can
Mm-hmm.
never reach to perfection. You will always be into different situations where you don't know something. It's absolutely fine,
Yes.
and you should always be ready and keen to learn that. But when you know about yourself instead of knowing something else, then you will always become confident and you will become vulnerable. You would not shy away from expressing anything because you will not have any fear of judgment. You would not fear that somebody may say something. If I say something, somebody may judge. I don't care.
Mm.
It's all about understanding yourself, being very clear, because as I rightly said some time back, the confidence comes from clarity, and clarity comes from understanding truly who you are, what's your
Mm.
identity, what you love to do, what you're
Yes.
not good at. So I think, as Ash said, that you're not your thoughts, you're not your name, you're not your world. You are your strength, your weakness, your passion, your mission and vision. Those are the things that you are. Those are the things that your identity is. Thank you, Gokul. So I think it's when you want to boost your self confidence, it's a journey. Keep on working on that. Keep on understanding yourself, and that's how you become more confident. Thank you so much for asking such a fantastic question. And Gokul is saying yes, we must know our strength. Agree, true. Thank you so much, all of you, and I just want to say a massive thanks to my guest, Ash, today for actually taking this time out and spending 1 hour with us, with this Life Indeed family, and adding immense value. Those of you who may not have been able to catch up today can always revisit this podcast, and I would leave the links of Ash social media into the on my YouTube channel. So if you want to connect with Ash, you can always connect with him, take help from him on the personal transformation. And if you really, really want to understand more about yourself, or I will always recommend you that you go to and connect with Ash. Thank you so much, Ash. We really lost a track of time. You wanna have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
It's been great being here, Tausif. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a real pleasure. The last thing I would say, and just very quickly, is that self confidence doesn't come from having all the answers. Self confidence comes from knowing yourself, right? Self confidence does not come from having all the answers. Self confidence comes from knowing yourself. So, anybody listening, start to take a couple of steps down the path of knowing yourself and get some help. That's what I do. And there's other coaches who can help you on that journey to actually truly understand who you are, what motivates you, what makes you happy. And then you can take that back out into the world and you'll be amazed at the difference that makes.
Absolutely bang on. Thank you so much, Ash, for this tip. And I would love to actually connect with you. I don't think 1 hour is actually enough to have a holistic discussion. I would love to have you one more time on Life Indeed show, because obviously everybody, all the audience have really, really enjoyed. They asked questions, and it was an opportunity for me to learn something new as well. Situational gratitude and couple of things. So thanks a lot for joining, Ash, and I would love to connect with you more and more, and get the value from you for the audience. So thank you so much for joining in. We would like to express our gratitude to all the people audience who've joined in today and would revisit this in the future. So thank you so much for your support and love. So I would like to call it a day. Thanks a lot, Ash. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. I
Tausif.
would end the live session.
Thank you for having